So one really common source of data is, of course, websites. But how is that data actually stored and structured? What files is it in? Let's take a look. So here I've got a web page, pretty basic one on pythonscraping.com. And if I want to see how all of this information is stored, I can right click and go to inspect element. Depending on what browser you're on, that might look something different, but it's usually pretty obvious. And so when I do that, this pops up. So this is the developer console. It's got a number of different tabs, and one of them is the elements. And what that shows is the HTML of the page. The HTML defines the content of the page. And so as I hover over different parts of that, you can see different parts of it highlight. And so that shows what each of these different pieces of the HTML include on the page. You can expand each of these to see further and further what's inside. And again, hovering over shows you which parts of the website you're currently looking at. So all of this would be put in a HTML file, and that file can have any name, but it has a .html extension. And so the structure of HTML is this tree structure where everything starts from this HTML tag, and then that can branch off to contain several different tags inside. And each of them again can branch off and contain different tags inside, and so on. And you can have all different kinds of tags, and the different tags represent different things on the page. The HTML tag is what every HTML file needs to include at the very root, and that contains all of the nested tags. Inside the HTML tag, which basically contains all the HTML, is the head tag and the body tag, and over here, my Grammarly desktop integration. But the head tag doesn't highlight anything when I hover over it. That's because that basically contains the metadata information. So if I click into that, you can see it contains this style tag, which is for defining styles in CSS, which is a different language, kind of a language, which displays the styles. So if the HTML is the content of a page, the CSS is the styles. As the analogy goes, if a web page is a house, then the HTML is the foundation, the bricks and the mortar, and the CSS is the rendering, the plaster and the wallpaper. And so other than the head tag, you've also got the body tag. The body tag, that contains actually all the content in the page. So you can see when I hover over the body, it's got everything inside. And in there, you can see a number of different other tags, which are the different pieces of this page. The most common tag you probably see is the div tag. A lot of people don't actually know what this is short for, but it's short for division. It's just a division of the page. So the whole web page is just divided up. One thing that you'll notice is that HTML tags have opening and corresponding closing tags. So for example, the HTML tag, this is the opening tag, which is left angled bracket, HTML right angled bracket. And this is the corresponding closing tag, left angled bracket / HTML right angled bracket. And so every tag really is a pair of opening and closing tags, which encompass everything that's within that division of the page. So when I hover over this div, or if I close this div, you can see that it's div ... closing tag div. So I'll expand that, and you can see a few more tags. So here we got an image tag. And one thing that's important to notice here is that tags can have attributes. So this tag has the source attribute, and that's equal to the location of the image in the source code, which this website's made from. It's also got a style tag, and that is just inline CSS. So that's what some CSS looks like there. Then I've got an H1 tag. So H1 is the heading 1 tag. That includes kind of the text that you want to be the biggest. There's also H2, H3, H4, H5, and I think all the way up to H6 tags. And in your CSS, you can specify what the font size and style is for each of those tags. But your CSS can be infinitely flexible, and you can have many different more types of font if you want. And a lot of the time, HTML tags have attributes so that they can be identified by CSS, which then adds particular styling to them. And one of the most common ways for CSS to locate different tags is either by ID or by class. So here you can see this div tag has ID equal to content. IDs are supposed to be unique, and classes, like you can see here, can be applied to many different tags. So there's loads more detail I could get into with HTML, but that's the essentials that you need to know.